So in the previous lesson, we have seen how Hitler after the First World War was sent to spy on the German Workers' Party, but in turn he ended up joining the Workers' Party for a full-time membership. Now, soon enough, he rose up in prominence in the party, eventually becoming the chairperson or chairman of the party, and also making crucial decisions like renaming the party into the Nazi Party and also designing its banner. Now, over time, the Nazi Party's ambitions grew and they decided to take over power in Germany by launching a coup known as the Beer Hall Push. Now, the Beer Hall Push was supposed to take over control of the Bavarian state of Germany and therefore, in turn, push the Weimar Republic to resign so that the Nazi Party could take over the entirety of Germany. However, the Beer Hall Push failed and Hitler was arrested and the Nazi Party was banned. Now, Hitler was sent to Landsberg prison, but he managed to get his sentence reduced. Now, in prison, many important things happened which made the failed push quite significant. First, the Beer Hall Push managed to get both Hitler and his party international recognition. Now, before the push, the Nazi Party was simply a regional party, but after it, it had got international recognition. Hitler himself managed to use this time to design a proper program and plan for his party, and even wrote down his autobiography, Make Off. After Hitler was released, he had one thing in mind which he was convinced of. Now the only means of achieving power would have to be democratic and proper. And that is what Hitler would be adopting after he came out of prison. Now when Hitler came back from Landsberg prison, his main agenda was to rebuild the Nazi Party. But to rebuild the party, he first had to make the party's existence official. If you remember, after the Beer Hall Push had failed, the Nazi Party was banned. So what Hitler managed to do was to get the ban on the party lifted. He promised the authorities of Bavaria and of Germany that he would now only resort to democratic means. Now, while the Bavarian authorities were skeptical of his demands and of his promises, somehow or the other, Hitler managed to convince the authorities to lift the ban on the party. The Nazi Party, therefore, again became a recognized political party. Now, Hitler's time in prison and the international recognition that the failed push has got actually managed to get both Hitler and his party worldwide popularity. In fact, his autobiography, Make Off, added to this international recognition, and this recognition translated into new supporters and members of the party. So after Hitler managed to get the ban lifted from the party, more and more people crowded to join the Nazi Party again. Now, around this time happened the 1929 crisis or the Great Depression. Now, in this situation, Germany's entire economy collapsed as it is. But Hitler again saw this as an opportunity. He found that this crisis, which had aggravated the public, could make the public support Hitler even more. And therefore, he managed to promise the people exactly what they wanted. They wanted economic support, they wanted employment, they wanted political stability. And Hitler said that he would bring that about if they support him to power. And that's exactly what happened. He got the economical support from the capitalists, he got the military support from the ex-soldiers, he got the strength of numbers from the many workers and laborers of the country. In all, Hitler had the support of Germany behind him, and with this, he rose and rose further to power. In fact, in a way of understanding how popular Hitler became, the 1932 Reichstag election itself can be the evidence. The 1932 Reichstag or the 1932 parliamentary elections of Germany saw that despite the Nazi Party did not get a majority in the parliament, because if we remember, no party was allowed to get a majority in the German parliamentary system, the Nazi Party still managed to get a significant number of votes and they joined a particular coalition, and therefore the Nazi Party entered the parliament or the Reichstag of Germany. So now we saw that the Nazi Party therefore is in the Reichstag. The Nazi Party is now a parliamentary party. But things quickly change again. You see, the coalition was led by a leader known as von Papen, who became the Chancellor of Germany. The Chancellor of Germany is the leader of the German government and usually is a leader of that party which gets a majority in the parliament. However, no party really got the majority, and therefore von Papen's government from the very beginning was very inefficient because no majority meant no real power. This, along with multiple number of elections where there had never been a majority, led to the very Reichstag or the Parliament of Germany becoming an incapable and inefficient organization or body, and led the people of Germany to lose faith over it. The president of Germany now knew something had to be done. The president at that time was Hindenburg. And the president of Germany is the head of the executive, and he also is the head of the state. He has the power to appoint the chancellor as well. Now, he decided that a new chancellor needs to be appointed, otherwise, the Reichstag would lose all its political power. And then came the idea of making Hitler the new chancellor of Germany. So, President Hindenburg decided to appoint Hitler as the chancellor of Germany. This decision was for many reasons. First, Hitler had a popular support. He had the relatability with the mass of Germany, and therefore making Hitler the chancellor would make the people of Germany again believe in the parliamentary system and the Reichstag itself. Also, Hitler was supposed to be a leader independent of parliamentary parties. This was to reinforce the fact that even though Hitler or his party does not have the majority in the parliament, Hitler had been made the leader on his own will and not on the will of its party. And finally, Hindenburg and the other politicians of the Weimar Republic thought that they could put Hitler as the face of the Reichstag and could also control him into doing what they want. Unfortunately, they did not realize what Hitler had in his mind was the exact opposite. So finally, on 30th January 1933, Hitler was sworn in as the Chancellor of Germany, or the leader of the German government, and his cabinet was announced. The cabinet included many ministers or the people of his party who he gave crucial portfolios to, such as the Ministry of Defense, the Ministry of War, the Ministry of Economy and Finance. Similar important ministries were given to people of his own party, and therefore a Nazi government was finally formed. And over here you can see the picture of Hitler walking out of the Reichstag after his appointment as the Chancellor. Look at how the media and the public are pouring over him, and look at how happy they appear with the new appointment of Hitler. So Hitler had managed to become the Chancellor of Germany, or the leader of the German government. But this is not where Hitler's ambitions stop. You see, even though Hitler had become the leader of the government, his position did not go unopposed. As the parliament or the Weimar parliament or the Reichstag did not have the system of majorities, no party could really have the power to control the Reichstag. Hitler did not like this because there were many opposition parties who were trying to build a majority government. So therefore, Hitler worked against any attempts by the opposition or the opponents of the Nazi party to build a majority government. Now, of the opponents mentioned, one name was the most important: the Communist Party. The Communist Party of Germany was the primary opponent to Hitler's rise to power, and the Communist Party of Germany also were hell-bent on being the next majority government. So Hitler now knew that he had to get something done to remove this thorn from his way forever. Now finally, when the 1933 Reichstag session was dissolved in the month of February, an accident shook the nation of Germany. You see, overnight, there was the burning of the Reichstag, the very building where the democracy of Germany was held, the very building where the Reichstag summoned and had the sessions. The Reichstag building burned and was doused in flames overnight. Now, this particular incident is now known to us was actually staged by Hitler. He was the one who was behind the burning of the Reichstag. However, at that time, Hitler managed to do something else altogether. He managed to blame it on his opponents. And how did he do that? Let's see that. The burning of the Reichstag shook the entire nation. However, Hitler spun the entire narrative and managed to blame the entire incident on the communists. In fact, Marinus van der Lubbe, a young communist sympathizer, was alleged of starting the Reichstag fire, and in fact Hitler managed to prove that he really was behind it, and this young boy was tried and executed for this crime. Now we know that Hitler was behind this. But back then, Hitler was able to target the entire blame on the communists, which led to a public outcry against the communists, and Hitler also managed to get governmental traction to get the communists out of the political system itself. Now, it is ironical perhaps to note that Hitler got the Reichstag building burned. It just shows Hitler knew that in the future he would have no use for a parliamentary building because he would hold all the power. Now, apart from convincing the public that the communists were truly behind the Reichstag burning, Hitler was also able to get to the president, Hindenburg himself. And in fact, he managed to make the president declare an emergency. Now, through this emergency declaration, which was the Reichstag fire decree, Hitler managed to get even more political control in his hands in order to deal with the situation after the Reichstag fire. Hitler managed to convince the president that in this particular hour, Hitler needs more power to deal with all the opponents so that any enemies of the state would be properly dealt with. And therefore, the Reichstag fire decree imposed an emergency in Nazi Germany. Now, apart from the declaration of an emergency, another thing also took place. The Communist Party was banned through this decree as well. And therefore, what we understand is that through this particular Reichstag fire decree, Hitler managed to use the traction after the revelation that the communists were behind this plot. However, we now know that this particular plot was orchestrated by Hitler himself. But when he managed to put this plot forward, he not only managed to convince the public, he also managed to convince the president himself to give even more power to him. Therefore, getting two things done at the same time. Getting even more political power in his hands and also removing the primary political opponent of the Nazi party, the Communist Party of Germany. Now, after the declaration of emergency, Hitler intensified paramilitary action of the Nazi party itself. So Hitler acted immediately to make sure that he is done with any form of political opposition once and for all, and therefore he decided to use his own paramilitary force, the brown shirts, to go and remove every possible opposition and also strengthen the control of the Nazi party on areas where other opposition parties had a stronghold over. Therefore, you can see in this picture how Hitler is addressing his brown shirts to go forward and carry out this paramilitary action to deal with any form of opposition and to also strengthen the control of the Nazi party. Now, in this particular picture, we see a brown shirt soldier is executing a group of people because they are communists. So this was the level to which the paramilitary action was being conducted by Hitler and his Nazi party, so that they are done with all forms of political opposition and they're the only ones who remain with true political power in the aftermath of the emergency. Thus, we saw that with the emergency declaration, Hitler now has more power. He also has managed to get rid of his primary opposition and silence the others. But he still needed a formal declaration of his majority control on the Reichstag. And this he did through a law or an act known as the Enabling Act of 1933. Over here we see the act. And this act allowed the Nazi party to pass any law it wants without the consent of the parliament, thus making the very Reichstag or the German parliament powerless. This he was able to do as the emergency was still in power, and Hitler was able to convince the President Hindenburg that the Nazi party needs this power at the moment to be able to deal with all certain oppositions and enemies of state. Now, with the Enabling Act, Hitler finally got his majority control of the parliament. Now, can you answer this question? When was the Enabling Act passed? Was it in the year 1931, in the year 1930, in the year 1933, or in 1932? The correct answer happens to be 1933. Now, with the Enabling Act, Hitler got a legislative dictatorship. Now, Hitler and his Nazi party had full control over the parliament as they had the true lawmaking power. Hitler also had military power as his own brown shirts and the German military were actually under his control. But what Hitler did not have till now and what he truly wanted was complete executive authority. because the role of chancellor was only half of the executive. The remaining half lied with the role of the president, who, if we remember, was Hindenburg. But Hitler's ambition to achieve full executive authority finally came true when President Hindenburg died on 2nd August 1934. Over here we see President Hindenburg in his deathbed, and over here we see a newspaper clipping which marks President Hindenburg's death. Now, it was as if Hitler was prepared for Hindenburg's death. In fact, when Hindenburg was in his deathbed, Hitler had decided that he would be taking up the power of the presidency. Therefore, quite coincidentally, exactly one day before Hindenburg passed away, Hitler managed to pass a law in the parliament which stated that after the current president passes away, which was Hindenburg, the role of the president would then be combined with the role of the chancellor, and there would be one combined office of a leader or a Führer. And guess who would that be? Hitler, of course. So when Hindenburg passed away the very next day, Hitler did not waste a single moment. When he was giving his speech to pass his condolences for the death of Hindenburg, he ended the speech by announcing that he would be combining the offices of the chancellor and the president and creating a new office of a Führer und Reichskanzler, or a Führer, a leader, and the chancellor or the chancellor. So a combined office of the president and the chancellor, and he would be taking that power up. And therefore, with this announcement and the creation of this new office, Hitler rose up as an undisputed leader, often called the Führer, or quite simply the leader. And this was Hitler's ascendance to the role of a dictator. So we saw all the struggles of Hitler to rise to power as the chancellor was nothing as compared to the very limited struggle he did, but the much more significant struggle of his transition from chancellor to Führer, or the dictator of Germany. Now, upon becoming the dictator or the Führer of Germany, Hitler introduced a certain salute. Now, this particular salute, where you raise up your left hand and salute to your leader, is actually an ancient Roman salute which was called in Germany as Sieg-Heil, or Hail Victory. Therefore, it is a way of hailing to victory of the country itself. But soon enough, people started to use this salute for Hitler himself, which the people call Heil Hitler, or which makes us understand how they were considering that Hitler himself would bring them victory, as this particular salute was supposed to be a salute to victory, but now they're saluting Hitler himself as if Hitler is associated with victory itself. So in this particular lesson, we were able to trace the final chapter of Hitler's rise to power. We saw how he came back from the Landsberg jail, changed his entire method of conducting politics, and was able to get the ban on the Nazi party lifted. After that happened, the Nazi party even got more international recognition. The Nazi party, soon enough, with its newfound recognition and popularity, managed to find a place in the parliament of the Reichstag. Now, due to the instability of the Reichstag, Hitler was appointed as its chancellor. When Hitler became the chancellor, his ambition further grew, and soon enough, Hitler was able to get done with all possible political opponents and finally become the dictator of Germany when the president of Germany passed away, upon which Hitler combined the roles of chancellor and president and became something known as the Führer, or the leader of Germany, and the people hailed him to victory. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers, or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million plus questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it is rewarding too. So register for free now.